In this session, we want to go over rendering and the final part of the work. Okay, to start the rendering part, first we need to complete what we want in the interactive section. But before that, we can fix our frame. If you remember, I said the part that is the Corona camera. If I press Shift F, I can see the size of my image and what I see in the render. If I go to the rendering section and render setup, the first part is common. In the common section, in the first part, you specify which frame to take. First, I say take a single frame, which is the first frame. Take 0 out of 100, or activate it and take 0 to 100, meaning take all the frames, or give it a range, for example, say from 0 to frame 50. And say from which frame to start, or specify for it, say frames 1, 3, 5, up to 12, etc. Now we select single. The next part I need to explain to you is the output size section. Where you specify the width and height. And what its aspect ratio should be. Now I can lock it so it doesn't move. I can unlock it and change the aspect ratio. For example, set it from 1.333. For example, set it to 2 and my proportion doubles. Look, if I set this to 2, up here, instead of 640, it becomes double 480, which is 960. But for now, I'll lock this. The different qualities you want to render, be it 480. If you want, since I lock this, I can change that one. The upper part itself simultaneously changes. I can set 480 to, for example, 720 HD quality. You see that it itself goes to 960. Or set it to 1080 Full HD, or set it to 2160 4K quality. And you see that its ratio doesn't change. If I change the ratio, this circle of ours changes. For example, if I set it to 2, see that this ratio changes, and the camera position needs to be adjusted a bit. But if it's still 1.333 and this 2160, I have the same previous ratio. But my image quality increases. As much as this height or width changes, the quality also increases proportionally to how much higher it is. Increases. Okay, there's nothing special for this section for now, except for this last part where you can set the production to Corona, for example, or whatever you have in mind. By changing the renderer above, other things will change. All right. I'll go into the scene and click Start Interactive. We no longer have the HDR that was behind because I unchecked it. I press the number 8 on the keyboard and check Use Map. We now have that HDRI behind us and can use it. The next point is that the plane below also needs a UVW map in planar mode. It's good, but maybe its size needs to be a bit smaller so that it shows itself better. Here we can also 10, 10, and 10. Okay, now it's probably better. This flooring showed itself a bit better. Very good. In addition, if I press M again, I'll bring the HDRI down a bit. Let it be lower. Let there only be the sky behind. Our main goal was for you to be able to use HDRI correctly and accurately. Okay, this is from our scene. We can come here and do some post-production work right here. Okay, I'll bring up the render setup window again. In the scene section, there are no other specific options except that in the denoising section, we select Corona High Quality. We don't have any specific settings in the camera section. We try not to touch performance at all. The same goes for the system section. There's nothing special. The same goes for the elements section. All right, this is from this section. I don't need to do anything with this render setup section for now. I'll activate interactive. And I want to apply some changes here and then start my final render. Take it. Okay, in this section, the tone mapping, the light compress parts, the higher this goes, you see the blown out areas of your image decrease. Of course, we don't have the sun here. If I see the sun and activate it, I turned on the sun, and the lower the highlight compress, the more blown out areas there will be. The next section is white balance. The higher you set the number, the warmer your scene becomes, and the lower you set the number, for example, 5,000, your scene becomes colder. 7,500 is usually the default number, and it's not bad. It depends on the scene you have, you can change it. In the contrast section, well, you can increase your contrast or decrease it. In the saturation section, similarly, the intensity of your colors. In the filmic highlight section, and now, we won't deal with filmic shadow for now. In the LUT section, you can consider different LUTs for the work. When I click this triangle, the LUT section opens. And I can select different LUTs for the scene. You see that each of them has specific settings that we can apply to your scene. Denoising is also not active in the interactive section, okay? We have the scene specific settings done. We've also done a part of the post-production here, and now we want to proceed with rendering. I'll close this. I'll click on Rendering from Render Setup. Or, if I press F9, it will start rendering. Okay. I'll click on Render. You see that the same window that opened there is similar to this, plus that in this section, denoising is also active. Okay, let me do this one more time to see what happened. When you hit Render, it first calculates the displacement and then the scene lights, and then it starts rendering the main render pass of the scene. You can see that in this section, that ratio we set for image quality is also visible. Okay, you can see that after the main pass, it moved on to rendering pass 2. These passes are done consecutively until you hit stop yourself, however many times. Meaning, go to the scene settings, and in this section, progressive render limit in the path limit, before you hit render, determine how many paths it should render. Okay. I'll set it to around 10 paths, or 12 to 13 paths, and then we'll continue. Okay, 10 paths have been rendered, and about 8 minutes and 35 seconds have passed. I think that's enough for now, and when it moves to the 11th pass, I'll hit stop. Then it starts denoising and removes the noise from the scene. Once denoising is complete, we can save this scene and this render we have and use it as a render. Although I feel like the steps still need some work on them, on the material, but the top part isn't too bad. For the steps, it would be better to work on the UVW a bit more. Okay, it's done. In this top section, there's a save option. I'll go back to this folder and give it a name, like O1, and save it in JPG format or TIFF. Which has better quality, or JPG. I'll save it, and I'll set the quality to the highest quality and click OK. Okay, this scene we're looking at, the beauty section, also has an alpha channel. That if we want to save this image again, later, we can in Photoshop if those who have the ability and skill to work with Photoshop know that this scene can be very useful, and they can use it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this package as well. I think with these steps we've taken and created this work, if you follow me step by step and you agree to do all the things I've done, you can complete your student projects with it. Or at least reach an acceptable and presentable result for the initial stages of work. I hope you are successful. Goodbye.